Hello, Garland Nixon here, and there are a number of things going on in the Iran conflict that we need to discuss. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and there are a number of things going on in the Ukraine conflict that we need to talk about. And maybe, just maybe, I'll take off my earphones because I'm not talking to anybody, and so I really don't need them on, and it's a bit more comfortable. So let us get going and what's happening now. One of the things I think that's interesting is the Iranians, yes, the Iranians have made an announcement, and we see an interesting point of leverage that the Iranians have that isn't often discussed. We're talking about whether they're firing more missiles or not firing more missiles, whether they're winning or losing, whether they're blowing things up and what's not getting blown up. But what's interesting is that they have leverage simply by making statements. And of course, this is in the realm of international geopolitics, and of course, international economic statements made by powerful people create leverage. As an example, one of the things that's been happening recently is the economy will start to, the stock market will start to tank. And Trump comes out pretty much daily and says, we've done everything we need to do. The war's pretty much done. This thing's about ready to end anyway. And then the stock market will stabilize. Then it'll start to sink again. And Trump will say, we've hit all the targets we need to hit. We've done all the things we need to do. I think, thing's pretty much complete. It'll stabilize. So on a day-to-day basis, Trump's playing the rhetorical game. I'm the president of the United States, and all I have to do is come out and say everything's going to be okay, and things, at least I can stabilize things using rhetoric. Of course, needless to say, that's only going to last for so long, right? It's just a matter of time before that falls apart. But the other part of it is this. Iran has the same capability, and let me give you an example of one of the cards that they played that is a matter of rhetorical leverage that has economic ramifications. Okay. This is being widely reported, but not from this perspective. And as you know on this channel, that's me and you, and by me and you, I mean me. What we do here is to try to look at things from an alternative perspective, not just what everybody's saying and not just the surface, but what's below it. What are the ramifications of a particular act or omission or commission, right? Here's the thing. So Iran played, what they're doing, let me say this, their strategy is absolutely impeccable. Let me give you a perfect example. So the Iranians came out, apparently the Israelis blew up an Iranian bank. Okay. So that was a kinetic move. We're going to blow up your bank, ha ha ha. And I noticed that what the Western mind tends to think mechanically. If I blow up your bank, if I take a kinetic action, it'll have this effect, right? And then they expect what? They expect that the what I would call is the learned long-term mind, the ancient wisdom kind of mind. I'll put it differently. People who don't look at things as tit for tat, as transactional, as you do this and I react this way. So the non-reactionary mind. So the reactionary thinks, I punch you, you punch me. I push you, you punch me. You push me, right? As the old saying goes in Zen, what happens when you throw a rock down a well and you don't hear a splash, right? So here's my point. And they expect, throw the rock, you hear the splash. Here's what's interesting. So immediately after the Israelis hit an Iranian bank, blew it up. So what does the way the Western mind works is not the way the long-term civilizational mind works. And most of the time, the Western culture doesn't allow you to see the alternative outcomes of this particular act. And I would imagine the Iranians did this deliberately. Think about this. Israelis blow up an Iranian bank. And everyone, the Western newspapers report it like this. Wow, it's open season on banks, right? They blew up a bank. We blew up a bank. They're going to blow up a bank. We blow up two banks. They blow up two banks. We blow up this kind of plant that makes rubber, they're going to blow up a rubber plant, right? That's the reaction, tit for tat, eye for eye. You do this, we do this. I don't know that the Iranians have blown up any banks at all, but how did the Iranians respond? Okay, your bank is blown up. The Iranian response was this: everyone in the Gulf region, do not come within 1 kilometer of a bank because you're going to be in great danger, right? We will respond. Now, what does the Western mind think? They're going to blow up banks. Yep, they're going to blow up banks. Oh, they're going to blow up banks. Why? Because that's the reactionary. You blow up banks, and when they say nobody better come within a kilometer of a bank because we're going to hit them, the Western thought, because you know they're going to blow up banks, is they're going to blow up banks with missiles so big that everything within a kilometer will be in danger, right? Ain't what I think. As a man who studies in. Here's what I think. What is the greatest battle? What's the greatest victory? To win a battle without fighting, right? Okay, let's think about, you live in the Gulf states, and Iran has said, I'm going to hit X, and they hit X. I'm going to blow up X, and they blow up X. The Americans bring in THAAD, Patriot, you name it. They bring in all these air defense systems, David's sling, David's jockstrap, I don't know, whatever the hell, all the rest of this stuff, none of it works. When the Iranians want to blow something up, they blow it the hell up, and there's nothing the West can do to stop them from blowing it up, right? Because Western air defenses are not working well. Let's be charitable here. Not as effective as they could be or should be. At any rate, here's the big one. You ready? They don't have to blow up Gulf banks. They just shut them down. What has happened? They said, nobody come within a kilometer of banks. Now, what do the banks then do? These banks in the region have now said, we're going to close. Please don't come to our bank, because for the health and safety of our customers, we're not going to send our employees to the banks for the health and safety of our customers. Do the Iranians need to blow up a bank? No, they don't. They just shut them down. They shut the banks down with a statement, and they never have to shut them down. Think about this. If someone knows you have the capacity to do something, and that you have done that before and demonstrated the capacity to do it, and you threaten to do it, they know that you can, and they have to make the assumption that you can. And if they're gambling with their lives, but they can't take a chance. So now what do you say? I need to go to the bank. But the Iranians have said nobody never better to come near a bank. That sounds to me like banks are going to get blown up. They blew every damn thing else up they wanted, and the Americans but the Israelis haven't been able to stop them. So now you live in a country in the Gulf state. You gonna go to a bank? You work at one of the banks. Are you going to work? I mean, I don't care how bad your bills are. In the words of Clint Eastwood and the outlaw Josie Wales, dying ain't no way to make a living, boy. That's the reality. Right now, you, your husband, your wife, your daughter, your son, your whoever, your father works at a bank. And the Iranians just said, hey, we're blowing all the banks. Dad, you can't go to work. Honey, you can't go to work. Son, you can't go to work. Right? What are you going to say? No. You're going to say you can't go in. Why? Because you could be killed. But we need the money. Yeah, but it ain't going to do you no good, Dad, is it? And you know good and damn well the Iranians can and will blow the banks. So whatever you do, don't go to bank. So effectively, the Iranians shut down all the banks in the Gulf region without firing a missile. And if I were the Iranians, I would blow up one bank, maybe none. Or not the Gulf states. I'd pick a bank like in Israel, or you know what? I would just throw a missile at Israel anywhere. Who knows? Who cares? Just another missile. Or do nothing different. And then I'm sure if you look at Tel Aviv, you can find a bank that was blown up somewhere there. And then I'd just claim it. And I'd say, the Iranians, we have blown up the bank of whatever, you know what I mean? The bank of Tel Aviv or something, whatever. I'd simply say, well, we've blown up the bank of Tel Aviv. And there's plenty more to come. So you better stay the hell away from those banks because you'll be dead. If you come anywhere near a bank, that's what I'm just saying. If I were the strategist for Iran, that's what I would do. So Iran has the capacity to close down all banks in the Gulf region without firing a missile. All they got to say is we will. Now, see, what is the strength of Iran? They can close down anything they want in the Gulf region. Why? Because you know that the Gulf countries can't protect it, that the U.S. won't protect it, and the Iranians will strike anything that they feel is of value as a target. So now, if there's a diner in Riyadh called the Sandwich Diner, yummy, 24 hours a day, go there and get yourself, I don't know what are they eating in Riyadh, right? A camel sandwich. Who the hell knows? I don't know. I'm sure they have delicious food in Saudi Arabia, right? But whatever the case may be, you want a sand and cactus sandwich. There you go, the Sand and Cactus Diner. And the Iranians, all they have to do is say, we're releasing a statement. Nobody better come within 1 stinking kilometer of the Sand and Cactus Diner because we're blowing it. Who's going to go near that diner? You just shut that diner down. They can shut down anything they want, anytime, for as long as they want. And all they have to do is every couple of days say, we got the Sand and Cactus Diner in our sights. We haven't decided what day. But if you go in there, you're gambling with your life because maybe today, maybe tomorrow, it might be next week. They're on our target list. We're going to hit them. We can't guarantee a win. Within the next 30 days, we're going to hit the Sand. Imagine if they said that sometime within the next 30 days, we're blowing the Sand and Cactus Diner. You better be, if you be there, let your conscience be your guide. Nobody goes to the Sand and Cactus Diner because you're playing Russian roulette with an Iranian missile. So now that they've said you go to a bank, you're done. You're finished. We're blowing you up. That's it. They just close down all banks in the Gulf region, and they can do it with anything they want. So what does that demonstrate? That demonstrates that having the showing the capability and the willingness to act greatly empowers you. It means you don't have to act. It's the bully. The bully beats up. Do you remember? I think it was Kenny Adelman, who was a neocon during the Bush administration. And he said, every now and then you got to take some crappy country and slam it up against the wall just to show you still can. What was Kenny Adelman in his evil psychopathic mindset saying? Every now and then you have to demonstrate your ability and your capacity to use force. Just every now and then, just pick somebody up and just slap the crap out of it, punch him or beat him so that everybody watching will say, oh my gosh, Garland's a crazy man. I better not mess with him, right? That's what he was. He understood that if you got strength and you use strength, that people will be afraid. So what have the Iranians done? Without really, this is an organic thing, right? The U.S. empire's claim was that it was, you heard the claims, we're the most powerful ever, the most powerful military, nobody can touch us, blah, 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 blah. That has been pierced. That shield of invincibility has been pierced. And once that shield's pierced, you got to get a new shield because that one's done. And it was, as we discussed on this channel, the only thing they had was a narrative. The narrative is our military is powerful, but at some point, somebody's going to challenge it. I am the what is a wolf? You got a pack of wolves, and one of them's the alpha male. Well, every now and then, a young male is going to grow up, and he's going to challenge the alpha male, and he's probably going to lose, but sooner or later, one will win, and then you got to do alpha male, right? But that alpha male, when he's challenged by a young male, has to be willing to fight. And guess what? As long as he wins, he's good. Well, the U.S. has claimed to be the alpha male, but by attempting to use force to prove that they were the alpha male without provocation, right? It isn't like a young wolf came up and said, I'm going to challenge the old alpha male. No, they just went around and said, anybody I see, I'll be, oh, you got a nice slab of meat there, buddy. Yeah, give it to me. But I don't want to, then I'll take it. And they would just take it without a fight because you were scared. And every now and then they picked a weak little wolf and beat him up. So Iran's like, I ain't giving up this meat. Oh, yeah, well, I'll take it. All right. Now Iran has shown their capacity to stand up to the alpha male, which means that the alpha male is no longer the alpha male. There's some other big old alpha males in the roost waiting. Okay, and they're saying we don't want to be the alpha male. We want to get along. So the U.S. is in deep and serious trouble, and Iran now See, okay, in the beginning of this conflict, it was a kinetic conflict. That's what it was. In the beginning, there had to be established the level of power on both sides, right? The U.S. argued that we are incredibly powerful, that our power is unmatched, which meant if the U.S. military was as powerful as it claimed to be, that meant that it would dominate Iran. Now, number one, that means anything short of domination is a loss. If you say you can dominate somebody, anything short of domination is a loss. So the U.S. had lost quickly when they showed that they couldn't dominate, right? Number two, when people start to look at the conflict, evaluate the conflict, and there are those of us amongst the evaluators, shall we say, who start to say, based on my evaluation, I think Iran's winning and you're losing. And they are credible evaluations. There are people saying, because if I'm going to evaluate anything, I need a set of standards, right? Epistemology. How do I know what I know? How do I judge something? I got to have some standards by which to judge it, right? In law, if there's the Younger doctrine, there are standards set forth in that particular case that we use to judge the whatever it is, any of the important rulings, important legal rulings, right? You have to have standards by which you judge these things. And if I'm evaluating the conflict, I can say I think Iran is winning, or I think the U.S. is winning. But I got to say, what are the standards for winning? One of the obvious standards is if I make a claim of that there's a particular outcome that I am advocating for and that I am attempting to impose upon my adversary, can I achieve that outcome? Anything short of achieving that outcome can be considered a loss. The other has to be kinetically. Am I effective in my kinetic strikes on my opponent? And is my opponent effective on their kinetic strikes against me? Right? How much damage am I taking in? How much am I losing? What's happening as far as my support for the war at home? So there are so many standards that you can use, lenses, I may say, through which you would use to evaluate who's winning and losing, that it becomes very subjective. So I'm just going to say, in my opinion, Iran's winning because their objective is only to continue to keep fighting and defend themselves and inflict punishment on their adversary. And right now, it's obvious that they are able to do that from a war perspective. The U.S.'s objective for regime change, well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is they got regime change. The bad news is it didn't do them any good. That they got the same thing they had before, the so-called regime change. So they wanted something. I want this to change. That's changed, but it hasn't helped you. So they're in deep trouble. So my evaluation from the first 10, 11 days is, at this point, the United States has not established military dominance. That's a huge loss for them. They're taking great losses in men and war material. That's a huge loss for them. Iran is punching above its weight, shall we say. It's much smaller and it's poor, compared to the United States. They don't have a lot of money. Unless you add in the debt, then they're $38 trillion richer than we are. You know what I'm saying? You add in the debt, they're actually, since they don't have any debt, they're $38 trillion richer than we are, right? That's one way to look at it, right? But my point being, if I look at this thing and I start asking myself, what kind of weapons does Iran have? I have to start evaluating non-kinetic weapons, because all they have to do is hold serve kinetically, and they're doing better than holding serve, right? All they got to do is score what they're supposed to score, is punch back, is get in some good punches, and heaven knows they're doing that. But above that, they have shocked the West. I mean, when it comes out and the U.S. and the Pentagon says, well, we didn't think they'd be able to do the things that they're doing. We didn't think they'd be able to punch as hard as they punched. We didn't think they'd be able to have the technological advances that they have. We didn't know they had all this. Well, you thought they had help from Russia and China. Well, how you couldn't figure that out? You are demonstrating your inability to evaluate the strength of your enemy. And let me tell you something, when it comes to conflict, that's a big one. If you can't figure out, you're going to fight this guy. I wonder if he has a gun or a knife. I don't know. You better know. What if he has a baseball bat? Wonder if he has 5 friends behind me who are waiting to jump in the fight and all beat me to a pulp? I don't know what about that. You better know those answers before you go punch this guy. Who is he? Is he a 5th degree black belt? Is he a murderer who just got out of prison for murdering 12 people and he's got a giant knife on him and he'd be happy to make it 13, a baker's dozen? Is that it? You better know these questions before you go in. But the U.S. is making it clear. We didn't know. As soon as you say, I didn't know, you lost. As soon as you say, I didn't know, you are exposing your inability to evaluate, to effectively evaluate your opposition, your adversary in a conflict. You ain't going to win a whole lot of wars if you don't even know if you don't know much about the opposition. Because if you don't know much about the opposition, then you didn't have a good battle plan, did you? I mean, a good battle plan requires you to know and understand intricately your evaluation. If you're going to defend a case, you better have a pretty good understanding of the prosecution and vice versa. Otherwise, you're probably going to lose. You're probably going to lose. The defendant's probably going to get the chair. Okay, he's going to get the chair. He might as well plea out. He's getting the chair. So my point being this: when it comes to kinetics, I think the U.S. has lost the kinetic war simply because they underestimated the capabilities and the technological prowess of their adversary. And so now they're on their back feet recovering. Oh, we didn't think they could do that. Oh my gosh, we didn't think they'd be able to do that. Oh, we didn't think the missiles were that accurate. Oh, we didn't think that they'd be able to chase down our officials and kill. We didn't think. Why are you saying you didn't think that? Because you're finding out on the battlefield. That's why, which means you're losing. And you're cruising for a bruising. Anyway, so that's important. But here's the other part of it. Let's go to the other part. Iran, as long as they can hold serve and keep fighting, which apparently they can for a while, their power is economic leverage. That's the real one. What is Iran's greatest power, right? For instance, there are people like I told you when I was a young kid, when I was a young guy, I played basketball. That was my game. I loved to play basketball. And I played basketball in high school, community college, and lots of leagues. That was my fun thing. We have friends. I know guys that played in dart leagues. I know guys that played in pool tournaments. Everybody has something. So I played in these basketball leagues. It was great. Got good exercise. And like my best friend played with me. And so we kind of had a camaraderie thing. We'd play and go drink a couple brews after the game. Played in rec leagues. And it was fun, right? Played 35 and over leagues. And crap, I forgot what I was saying. I got sidetracked. Those ADD people, I got sidetracked, but it'll all come back to me in anyway. But anyway, my point being, Iran. Oh, I forgot what I was saying. I wish I could. I had a really good point coming. It'll come back to me at some point. But the bottom line is this. Iran is in a situation where their leverage, as long as they can hold serve, is the Straits of Hormuz. That's it. That's their biggest leverage. Oh, I know what I was going to say. It's geographical, right? When you play basketball, sometimes there's guys that are real good, like on the blocks down low, right? And sometimes these big, strong guys, they're real thick. They have the real thick midsections, and big thighs, and big butts, and big, just big, strong guys that plant themselves like an oak tree. What is their strength? You can't move them. You run into that guy, it's like you ran into a wall. You're like, okay, I'm going around, and you run into this guy, and all of a sudden you're running around something through a pit, and you run into this guy, and bump. What the hell? And there's a person that's so strong that you run into them and you can't move them an inch. It's like they're drilled into the ground, right? Everybody knows when you play sports, there's some people just so strong you can't move them. And you run into a person, and there's the people that have that huge trunk from here down. They're big and powerful. You can't move them. So what's their advantage? Geography. They can get under the blocks and move people out, push people around, and you can't stop them, right? Okay, here's my point. In football, there's guys who are big guys who they're, like you're trying to run the ball against them and you can't move them. Geography. They are where they are and you can't move them. And where they stop is where you need to go. And you can't go there, right? Here's my point. Iran has a powerful natural advantage, and that is geography. Iran controls the Straits of Hormuz, where, as you already know, 25% or whatever number it is of the world's oil and gas goes through there every stinking day, every day. And Iran is not moving, they're not going anywhere, and they are prepared to defend that geographical location. They dominate that geographical location. That's theirs. So as long as the Iranians can stay in the fight, and that people are like, they're not firing as many missiles. Why do they don't need to? That's not their strength. They started off and they put, number one, they fired a lot of missiles and drones, and they caused the US and Israel and etc. to exhaust themselves of their air defense missiles. That makes life a lot easier, doesn't it? You fire a lot of missiles, you let them get rid of their air defense systems early, and then you can fire a few missiles from then on, because they're all going to hit with you, right? You know, now, instead of, if you fire 50 missiles and 50 hit, 50 get shot down. Now, if you fire 20 missiles a day and all 20 of them hit, because they got no way to defend. You've blinded them. You've taken out their long distance radar. THAAD, Patriot, those kind of systems, they work off the long distance radar. The long distance radar picks up the launch, picks up the trajectory, it transports stuff, data to these local systems, be they THAAD, and then they utilize their computers to come up with a firing solution. Right? Where's that missile going to be at a particular time, and how can I put a missile there? What do I need to do, or two? But when your early warning radars are gone, that cripples your entire system. Because by the time the THAAD or whatever picks up this, or Patriot picks up this incoming missile, it doesn't really have a lot of time to come up with a firing solution. So my point being, you have exhausted in many ways their air defense systems, and now you don't have to fire as many. Fire however many a day, 20 a minute a day. It doesn't. Fire some drones, they're cheaper. But what you want to do now is you count the days, like a man in prison. 1, 2, 3, 4, draw a line through it. That's 5 days. How many years you got? 20 years. Every day I put one line down till those 20 years are over. The Iranians now, see, what they did was, I think, they opened with all kind of salvos. They did damage. They blinded them. They demonstrated their military prowess, number one. And now they're able to play the big one, which is the economic leverage based on their geographical location. Right? Now it's okay. Now that we've weakened your air defense system, we're going to do two things. Number one, enter Hezbollah into the fray. What is Hezbollah doing? One of the things that the Israelis are saying now is they're surprised by the accuracy and the power and the prevalence of Hezbollah's missiles and drones. Why is that? They look real strong because they can't shoot none of them down. It isn't that Hezbollah's missiles and drones are any better than they were before. But from a tactical and strategic perspective, the only thing the Iranians did was they said, hold on, your stuff is not as good as ours, and they could probably shoot it down easier. The Iron Dome is made to shoot down that kind of stuff, slow moving rockets, things of that nature, right? So if you fire it now, you're just going to chew it all up. So here's what we're going to do. You let us weaken their air defense system. And once their air defense system is weakened, they're yours. So now the Iranians are like, here's what we're going to do. Now that their air defense system is weakened, we'll fire 20 missiles a day. Hezbollah, you handle light work. Israel's the light work force. You handle the light work. We'll throw 20, 30 missiles a day just to soften them up, keep them running in the shelters. Hezbollah, you go to work, you do what you got to do, right? Now we can really work on our economic leverage. That's the true power. That's their power. You know, there's an old saying in geopolitics, right? You can choose your friends, you can choose your allies, but you can't choose your neighbors. You can't choose the countries you're bordered with. And that's what you have to deal with. So now what's happening? Israel is engaged with Hezbollah. Meanwhile, from the back, Iranian smacks them with a couple of missiles, so many missiles a day. But they're like, yes, the Iranians are throwing less missiles because their launchers are destroyed. Well, I don't believe that, but it sounds good. If the U.S. wants to go with that, that's great. What do the Iranians care? Because the Iranians are playing other games now. So now the Iranians are like, here's what we got. Let's do this. Slack up on the missiles. Look, every now and then we'll hit them with a big barrage. We'll hit them with a medium barrage. We'll keep them jumping. Hezbollah, you keep doing your dirt. And here's where we're going to go now. We're going to tighten the screws on the economic leverage because that's the real big one. So what are they doing? They're hey, we'll shut down these banks. But the other thing, they're making threats. They're dealing with hidden ships and things. They're dealing with the Straits of Hormuz, right? We're firing ships at ships. We're doing stuff. They're focused on the Straits of Hormuz. Now, what do you want to do if you're Iran? On at least one or every other couple days, I want to shoot a ship in the Straits of Hormuz. Why? Because I want it in the news. I want it in the news. I want it in the news. What happened? The Iranians fired another missile. There's another ship on fire in the Straits of Hormuz. And the Iranians said, yeah, there is. They're sitting back there. Hell, they'll probably take, if they're like, hey, anybody want to go through the Straits of Hormuz? And all the ships will be like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I ain't going through the Straits of Hormuz. What do the Iranians do? We got any old freighters? Yeah, tank it up and paint it up, make it look good and send it through the Straits of Hormuz. Why? So we can shoot it and blow it up. But it's our tanker, sir. Of course, but they won't send any through. We need some tankers burning in the Straits of Hormuz. For God's sake, would you get going? I need a tanker in the Straits of Hormuz, and those people won't give me one, so we'll have to make our own. So I want you to paint a tanker up. I want you to put American and British flags on it, put a little bit of oil in it so it'll burn nicely, put it in autopilot, send it straight for the Straits of Hormuz. You guys get your rockets ready. We want to blow it up, and we want every day, we've got to have a ship on fire in the Straits of Hormuz. So get moving. We need a ship on fire in the Straits of Hormuz. And that's what I would do if I was in my false flag every day. If I had to false flag if I had to do like AI and send in like AI pictures of a ship burning in the Straits of Hormuz every day, I'd do that. Why? Because I want it in the news. I want the markets every day to go, oh my God, there's another ship burning. Sell, everybody sell. That's what I'm doing. I'm just sitting back when Trump calls, that phones are ringing. Look at that, the phone's ringing. Hey, who is it? Oh, it's Trump. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It is. You gonna answer it? Not just yet. I'll answer it eventually, but not today. Trump's calling Putin. Hey, can you get me out of this mess? These messages are coming through everybody. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to make light of war because people are dying and it's a horrible thing. And as I said, I got family members in the middle, in the theater, shall we say, who are in the military. I'm not happy. I'm afraid. I'm worried every day. I mean, not close family members, but I'm saying secondary family, cousins and stuff like that. And, I want them to come back alive. But, my nature is to, as Alan Watts said, the question about life is it a tragedy or a comedy, ultimately? And I've decided that life is a comedy. And so we have to laugh. And the only other option is to me is to decide it's a tragedy and walk around upset all the time. And I refuse to do that. That's where we are. The Iranians right now are playing their biggest card. And of course, here's the other thing. And I've said this before. One of the things that the Iranians or the Russians and the Chinese will say, the Americans will do something. And the Iranians or whoever will say, we will respond at a time and place of our choosing. They always say that. Why is that? Because they understand that time can be a weapon and that time heals all things. And that, every dog has his day. And if you got us today, you got one in on us. But the day's going to come when things look good for us. And when that happens, when everything's just perfect for us, and I'm going to wait, because when that happens, I'm going to take advantage of it, right? And that's all the Iranians have done. They've waited. They waited out and bided out their time till things look good for them. And they're doing the same thing now. And I think what we're looking at is strategy, not tactics. The strategy is we open with a big volley. We make a lot of noise. I think they kind of shock and awed the U.S. and Israel. They shock and awed them. They said, all right, we're going to take some hits. We're going to throw some haymakers. We're going to throw some hammers at them early, a lot of them, and we'll leave them in shock. And then we'll get some spectacular video of missiles raining down and on Tel Aviv, and video of drones and stuff hitting hotels, smash it all over the place, and everybody go, oh my God, these people, they're unbelievable, right? They have unbelievable power. That's number one. And then I think the second part of it is, and then they say, okay, Hezbollah makes their move, we turn down, and now we're going to go to our other things, which will be diplomatic, and which will, of course, be economic. And so now it's time. I love to use my stories, but when I was in ninth grade, one year I wrestled. And one of the things that I was taught, this particular move that I was taught, where when the other opponent gets on your back and he grabs you around your stomach, right? So I'm like this and his arm's on my stomach, right? What you do, that arm's down there, you clamp down on his arm like this. Now his arm's on your stomach. He's behind you. You clamp down on that arm, right? So now he's stuck his arm around there, but you got it clamped. And you put your shoulder into the mat. Why? Because now he's being pulled like that. And he has to pull back. He's pulling back with his strength. You just got your weight pulling him. And he's pulling, right? And they said, just hold that and eventually you'll get him. And well, lo and behold, I'm in a wrestling match one day. And this kid does that. He grabs me around like that. I remember, clamp down on the shoulder. And I put my shoulder down. And he pulled, and nobody's moving. And he's pulling. And I'm just putting my shoulder down. And I could feel he's pulling for all his worth. And he pulled so tired, he kind of went limp and fell on the mat. I covered him. I won. It was the ability. What was on my side? Time and gravity. Boom. I'm leaning. You're pulling. I'm going to win that. And all I got to do is wait. And sooner or later. And so what's happening now? Now the Iranians are saying, we've gotten through this part where we throw stuff back and forth. Fair enough. We're going to slack up on that. We're going to keep the pressure on Israel. Okay? But here's the big but. But now we're going to wait you out. We've closed the Straits of Hormuz. What are you going to do now? Nothing. We got that arm clamped down. Let's see how you can pull, how long you can pull. So now what they're going to do is simply keep them closed. They don't have to do nothing now. You can throw some stuff at them. They're like, we know we're going to take some punches and we know we're going to give some punches. Now, I'm sure that there are other things involved in their strategy that they're doing. But I'm going to tell you right now, all they got to do is keep the Straits of Hormuz closed. Now, it's all in the news. Trump, we'll take the Straits of Hormuz. Yeah, come on. Give it a shot, brother. Right here. We'll drop soldiers in, and then we'll take Karg Island. All right, Karg Island's there. Come on down and take Karg Island. You think you can take it? We're waiting for you. Right? We'll run ship through the Straits of Hormuz. Oh, yeah, there it is. Ease on through the Straits of Hormuz. Don't worry, you can trust us. We won't fire any missiles at you. Let's see you do it. Now they know you can talk all the trash you want to. Let's see you give it a shot. They know you can't back it up. And here's what Iran knows right now. All they got to do is play footsie with you. All they got to do is smash some stuff, and you're going to smash some stuff. And Trump does this. It just goes to show the lack of this whole mindset of Western military. Hulk smash. What are you going to do? Trump, we hit him harder than ever before. What, just 3 days ago, you told us you were going to hit us harder than ever before. And we did. And we're going to hit him harder than we ever did before again. Really, what are you going to do next week when you're completely screwed? We'll hit him harder than we ever did before. That's all you got? That's your only move? Every couple days, hey, guys, things are going bad. You're losing the war. What are you going to do? We'll punch them so hard they'll be punched. That's how hard we'll punch them. At some point, it's not going to dawn on you that hitting them harder than ever before is not moving the dial. No. And the Iranians know. That's all you can do is hit them. They have decided, they have determined that they're going to take some hits, and they're ready to take some hits because they got time on their side. Time is on their side, like the Rolling Stones said, right? So now we have the Straits of Hormuz closed. Let's lay low. Let's just wait. Let's see how this works out. That's where they are now. The Straits of Hormuz is closed. That's really where we are. Where we are is this. I know what happens with the Straits of Hormuz closed. And you know what happens with the Straits of Hormuz closed. And what are you going to do? Destroy my economy? You've been doing that for the last 25, 30 years with sanctions. So what are you going to do? What you've already been doing? What are you going to do? Bomb me? I already know you bomb me. And there are all these people, they'll use nukes. Let's think about this for 1 second. For the sake of argument. The United States throws a nuke at Iran. Well, we already know that Iran's mountains all over the place is pocked with these bases, and that they have semi-autonomous units all over that already know if something happens, act on your own. So what happens? All right, because people are like, you think the U.S. will end it with a nuke? Well, one thing's for sure, that won't end it. So what happens? You say, that's it, we're throwing a nuke. And it hits Tehran, or it hits one of the bases in the mountains, whatever. They throw a nuke, boom, and it hits Natanz nuclear center, whatever. They throw a nuke. What do you think Iran's going to do then? Oh, that's what we're doing now, huh? Iran's going to say, okay, you played your big hand. Now it's my turn. I'm going to start by putting a bunch of hypersonic missiles on Israel's nuclear power plant and smoke it. And it's going to melt down. And Israel will be Chernobyl. And Israel's small. Israel can't afford to be Chernobyl, can they? Most of Israel will be irradiated and uninhabitable. So you throw a nuke at me, it's over for your little a pet friend there. Number one, you throw a nuke at me, it's over for your friend. I'm going to nuke them by hitting their nuclear power plant. They're going to get a meltdown. That's what you want. That's what you'll get. You can play at that game. Number one. Number two, all of your Gulf Coast friends there, yeah, their oil infrastructure is done. So we can open the Straits of Hormuz then because nothing's coming through it. Their oil infrastructure, their gas, which means how do you think things are going to work out for the U.S. economy after that? Oh, that's right. There will be none. So you throw a nuke, you might as well throw it at yourself because it's suicide. So all the idea that they'll commit suicide, I mean, anything is possible. But even that, because of Iran's size and its missile capacity, even doing that would be suicide. What is it? It's mutually assured destruction. If you throw that at me, I will destroy your economy for good. I doubt if the U.S. does it. So where are we? We're in a waiting game. That's where Iran is now. Realistically, here's the waiting game. How long can you live with the Straits of Hormuz closed? That's the only question. How long? And it ain't opening no time soon. And the other part of it is they're saying, and the price of opening it is higher than you can afford. You imagine that? Hey, you want some bottled water? Yeah, I'm dying of thirst. How much? $100. I don't have $100. Well, I guess you can't get any bottled water, can you? You're gonna die of thirst. You better come up with $100. Better go borrow it. You better do whatever. Go whatever. Come up with $100. You're going. Now, what happens if you have the $100 and don't want to spend it? But I don't want to spend $100. You don't have to spend $100, but you're going to die of thirst. So now what's happening? I expect Iran to be making demands. Now, I've seen all kinds of stuff written everywhere, but I expect their demands to be astronomical in the sense that they are about justice. I expect them. I've seen things that Iran says, I want all the money back. Number one, all the money that you're holding for us, you got to give it back, that you've taken from us. Number two, you got to pay us restitution, $500 billion for all that we've lost and everything we've been through. You got to pay us the $500 billion. That's number two. Number three, get the hell out of the region and Israel's got to give everything back. See what I mean? Iran's going to say, here are our requirements if you want us to open the Straits of Hormuz, to which the U.S. then says, well, we can't do that. To which Iran says, yeah, I kind of thought you couldn't. Bye. Right? Hey, this is what you got to do. And the U.S. is like, that's too much. And Iran says, I kind of thought it was. Hey, look, we get ready to go have tea with my buddy. Have a nice day. Click. I don't need to open it. You need me to open it. I don't need a deal. You need a deal. If you can't do it, you can't do it. I ain't mad at you, man. I'm not telling you got to do it. I'm just saying, if you want the Straits of Hormuz open, you probably want to do it. If you don't need the Straits of Hormuz open, you don't need to do it. Vae victis, man. Vae victis, or is it considered vae victis? You know what vae victis means? Woe to the vanquished. It means when there is a war and you lose that war, oh, your butt is grass. And Iran's the lawnmower. That's what it means. Now, let me go to a couple of other things since I've done so much time on that. Number one, a number of Israeli officials are missing. We've heard rumors that Itamar Ben-Gvir was in an accident where he was slightly injured. Maybe. We've also heard rumors that possibly that accident involved an Iranian missile. You know, he was just driving down the road, ran into an Iranian missile. They just happened to be blowing up at the time, right? We've heard that. We've heard that maybe his house was hit with a missile. It might be on fire, but he had an accident. Perhaps when he heard that, he was so upset on the phone, oh no, my house, and he ran into a fire hydrant. So whatever the case may be, I don't know where he is, and he ain't been on TV. Now, there's Benjamin Netanyahu. There are rumors that Benjamin Netanyahu has met an untimely demise. Not that there would be a demise that would be untimely for Benjamin Netanyahu. I would argue it was timely demise. But whatever the case may be, there have been A couple days ago. Who were the two guys? Witkoff and Kushner are two geniuses. We're heading to Israel to meet with Netanyahu. And then we heard, man, they're not coming. Here's what I thought. Probably a good idea, Witkoff and Kushner. Probably a good idea. Because what are you going to do? Stay at a hotel? You think the Iranians might figure out which hotel it is and send a welcoming committee in the form of a flock of what are they? Shahed drones. I'm just saying, if Witkoff and Kushner showed up after all they've done, if Iran ever gets the chance for payback, if I'm Witkoff and Kushner, I'll put it to you like this. I probably don't want to go back to the Middle East no time soon. At least not while the war is going on, maybe not even later, because I feel like this. Look, we already know the Iranians have the capacity to find out where you are and to come pay you a visit and to leave their calling card, Shahed drone. So I'm just saying, probably not a good idea for Witkoff and Kushner to make it. And right now, we don't know. I mean, literally, we don't know if Netanyahu's still in the land of the living. We don't know if Ben Gvir and his family members, or all of that. We've heard all this stuff, okay? But we know it's possible. Number one, we know he's hiding. We know he probably feels, as do we, if the Iranians get a bead on him, they're taking the shot. If they get a red dot on him, they're going to let loose. And he knows it, and I know it. We all know it. So he's running for his life. And other members are. And probably a lot of people in U.S. politics right now are getting jumpy, thinking, oh, my God, I hope nothing happens to me. There are a lot of people getting afraid. Why? Because the U.S. has been doing that to other people for so long. And now their drone policies of having a Tuesday morning drone kill meeting with Obama to decide who they were going to kill. Chickens are coming home to roost. And now the Iranians are having a Tuesday morning meeting to decide which American Department of Defense officials or high-ranking members of the U.S. military they're going to go after today, because they're doing it. They're going after them, and they're having some success. So look, I don't want anybody to die. This is war. And when you start a war, that's what you start. Let me continue. Here's one I got to discuss. There's a lot of discussions here, and understand that there's speculation. There are those who argue the United States is controlled by Israel, and that's all this is about, is the Israel telling the U.S. what to do. Then there's a Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, who I tend to fall right around where he is, and here's what he says. The U.S., this is my interpretation of what he says, and it aligns with what I think. The U.S. political class is highly compromised because of AIPAC and other very, very wealthy people who have dug their claws and tentacles into the American power structure. So an argument that the U.S. is controlled by Israel can be made, and it is a valid argument. Okay. However, here's the other side of it, and I give you the story that I give everybody. During the beginning of the Gaza genocide, the Israelis hit a hospital, and everybody started attacking them. And some people in the U.S. and Bush and a Biden administration said, "Oh, that's terrible. They shouldn't have done it." And the Israelis came out and they said, "Wait a minute. Tony Blinken sat in on the meat target acquisition meeting and approved all of the targets." And I'm thinking, approved? That means that the Biden administration is pretending like they're shocked, but they literally approved the targets. And so now we know that the Biden administration has to approve Israeli targets. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that, yes, Israel has power. That those who argue that Israel controls the U.S. and that the Israel is doing this for China, look, everything is not cut and dried. It's being that simple. So what if we go here? Clearly, the Zionist clutches are all over the U.S. power structure. Clearly, you would be a fool not to notice that and recognize that. However, the United States wants to take out China. The United States knows it can't go toe to toe with China right now. They've said that. So the United States knows, if we want to take out Russia and China, we got to control the choke points. We got to control the high seas. We got to control international trade. Our strongest point is our Navy. So we'll use our Navy to control international trade. Now, what is the most powerful choke point we could have right now? Oh my gosh, that's right, the Straits of Hormuz. So here's what we have. We have an Israel that says, look, Iran is the most powerful and vocal pro-Zionist voice in the region, and we need to control the whole region, so we need Iran out of the way. And the U.S. says, agreed. And not only that, if we could get Iran out of the way, we could control that strategic choke point, and then we could force Russia and China to do what we want, and we could take China out rather than having to confront them face up. We could choke them off with oil. Oh, that's great. Okay. So the point being is, while in fact the Israelis, the Zionists, have an inordinate amount of political and economic power in the U.S., the neocons in the U.S. also want to take out China. So what I'm saying is there's a confluence of interests. A, the Israelis want to take out Iran for the Greater Israel Project. B, the United States wants to take out Iran so they can control the Straits of Hormuz and the Bab and al-Mandab Strait, and they can go after China. It works. Everybody's happy, except the Iranians get a vote. That's the problem. They forgot that there's one other player at the table, and that's the Iranians, which means this: they ain't getting the Straits of Hormuz. Number one, ain't getting the Straits of Hormuz. That doesn't look like that's happening. Number two, they find themselves in a bind, a terrible bind, where they've lost the war within a week or two. They lost a war to Iran. Israel's still getting pummeled. The United States has an internal uprising that they've got to be concerned with. And within weeks, the price of gas and other things, the inflation in the United States and the market reverberations will be intolerable. That's what we're getting. That's what Iran's waiting for. Here's what they're saying. And this is what I'll put it like this. This is what I'd be waiting for if I was Iran. And that is, okay, the U.S. is feeling some pain and the U.S. wants a deal. And this is what I'd be thinking. You ain't feeling enough pain. See, if you're calling me, you ain't feeling enough pain. You got to be crawling to me. I don't want you calling. I want you crawling. You got to crawl to me and say, God, please, in heaven, somebody save me. If I'm Iran, I'll say, call me back in another week. You ain't quite there yet. You're softened up. You're getting soft. I just stuck a fork in your breast, and a little bit of pink juice is still coming out. You ain't quite run. You're almost right, but not quite. Another week. Please, please, I beg of you. Another week. Now when you come crawling, laying on your belly, oh God, you gotta let us get, oh please. Oh, all right, now I'm ready to talk. That's where I'd be. I'd wait till you're face down, pooped on yourselves, which, let's face it, from what I've seen of Trump, that might already be happening. I mean, let's face it, I don't know if you've been in the Rose Garden, but between him and Biden fertilizing the Rose Garden, they got some of the reddest roses on earth. They got red roses in the Rose Garden. I guess when you got a couple guys who have issues with incontinence, the Rose Garden gets fertilized really, really well, and you get beautiful red roses. They may smell a little like beans, but I'm sure, all right, I'm getting a little sidetracked with some unsavory things, but you get my point. You get the point. So that's where we are now. Now, the Iranians have put the U.S. in a headlock, and they're going to squeeze till we stop breathing, till we start tapping. They want us to tap out. They got that wrist lock on us. And what we're doing is, if you've ever done that with somebody doing you from the left, they can squeeze them. They're just further and further. They're squeezing it further and further and further. Please. Oh, no. You don't appreciate the gravity of the situation, do you? That's where we are. Now, all the Iran. So that's where we are. Iran is waiting right now. And they'll be playing their economic leverage. They'll be doing things like Gulf banks, and they're fine. Look, if the media says things like this, well, they're only firing 20 missiles a day. Ha 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 ha. They're weaker. And Iran, so that's fine. Go ahead, play your media game. We're all right. Straits of Hormuz so close. The Iranians, we've blown up all of their launchers. Ha ha ha. Okay, yeah, that's great. Whatever you people believe that's good. The Straits of Hormuz is not opening. So we can have articles of how they're losing. They're fight. What next? The Russian thing. They're fighting with shovels. They're out of missiles. They're out of drones. What next? The new Ayatollah. They're going to say like Putin. He's got Parkinson's and 5 different kinds of cancer. He's going to die any moment. And the Iranians are going to be just like, yep. Sorry, pal. Straits of Hormuz ain't open yet. Sooner or later, you're going to have to come visit me. We're going to have to talk about the Straits of Hormuz. And at that point, you're going to have to give up the ghost, brother. You're going to have to give it all up. So now, and I think the Iranians are waiting for some kind of a market crash. I think what the Iranians are waiting for is some kind of intense economic action, right? Number one, we want the market to start to crash. Number two, we want gas to go through the roof. We need some kind of thing to happen like in Europe, something that's so economically painful that the pressure comes from within. Right, we want $10 a gas, $7, $8, $9, $10 a gas in a gallon in the U.S. So the people in the U.S. go, "What the hell is this?" Right? We want the Europeans to be completely out. Hey, I just turned on the heat; it won't come on. Where there's no gas. Oh, okay. Call the gas company. No, they're the one who called us and said there's no gas. And when we say no gas, we mean in the entire economic bloc of Europe. Of course, we could get Russian gas, but we told them we didn't want that anymore. So what happens? So if I'm Iran, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just waiting. That's where I am. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to see how long it takes you to figure out that you're screwed, blued, and tattooed. And I got time. Let's see how long it takes you. Maybe a little bit of time, maybe a long time, but at some point you'll figure it out, and we shall see. And that's what I think. That's where I think we are. I think that if Netanyahu is either has left this mortal plane, or he's in danger of leaving this mortal plane, and Netanyahu or Ben Gvir or some of the other people are in bad shape, or they're injured or whatever, I think it has to be hidden. How long can they hide it? Just like how long can they hide the number of troops that are dead, which are probably like, it ain't 6. Now they're saying 140 wounded. Okay, sure. Yeah, right. I don't believe that. Add another 0. But how long can they keep hiding the true numbers of people that are hurt? How long can they keep hiding the true numbers of the true cost in war material, of how many planes shot down, how many troops captured, how many all these other things? How long can they keep hiding it? How long can they hide who and whom is severely injured or deceased in the Israeli government, in the Israeli leadership, maybe even the U.S. leadership of the Department of Defense or in the military? How long can they keep hiding that? How long means that time is a weapon, and Iran will act next at a time of their choosing, and that at some point, Victus will find its way into the equation. Woe to the vanquished. The United States will be vanquished. And by the way, the last thing I'll say on the way out the door is this. We had some kind of a plan in the South China Sea. There was the first island chain, the second island chain, the third island chain. We were going to dominate this island chain and that island chain. We were going to put, have you saw this? The United States has put, in Taiwan, had put people on bases only just a few miles from China and this and that. Well, let me say this. If, in fact, we, let me just see what's going on. If, in fact, we couldn't last but a couple of days in the face of Iranian missiles, how long will it be? How long would it take for Chinese missiles? You know, I saw one factory. I think they said the U.S. had like 12,000 missiles or something, and which was maybe half in reality what we had, maybe double what we had. But I saw a Chinese factory, well, at least some stuff about it, whether it was true. I'm assuming it was true. This factory that had no people working in it was fully automated, and it was making 1,000 missiles a day. One factory. So that means in 6 to 12 days, one factory could make as many missiles as the U.S. has in its arsenal. Let me ask you this. I had heard that that China literally had millions of missiles, right? Which means what? 1,000 missiles a day for 1,000 days they can fire? Here's my point. Our plans to put missiles around bases, to put bases around China, and then somehow use those bases against China. The U.S. lost to Iran. They lost at least the momentum and were severely damaged within days based on Iranian missiles. It's clear with China it would be hours. Or Russia has arrestniks and all kinds of stuff. Hours. If the U.S. said to Russia or China, you probably hear me, I'm going to keep saying this. If the U.S. says to Russia or China, we're attacking you, we're going to war, within hours, every base within a couple thousand miles. And what does the Russian have? 6,000 mile range? They could take out bases in the United States. Every base within 1,000 miles would be reduced to rubble within hours. So the idea that the United States at this point, who are getting their butts smoked by Iran, the idea that the U.S. could have some game of this island chain or that island chain and get anything other than obliterated within hours is over. The whole plan, we're going to surround China with bases and we're going to do detailed this and that, and all these missiles would last for hours. Those bases get smoked. And if you're Taiwan and South Korea and these other countries, you got to be looking at that saying, ooh, we got bases here and they're going to get smoked. And the U.S. can't. Look, Taiwan, do you really believe now that the U.S. is willing or capable, is willing to or capable of defending you against China? Well, if China comes in, the U.S. will come in and defend. Oh, boy, that's right. Yeah, that ain't okay. Now, I don't think that's. You better make some calls, Taiwan. You better be calling mainland China. Hey, guys. Hope it wasn't out of line with those cracks about you guys being authoritarians. I mean, hey, jokes amongst friends. You know what I mean? Let's say we burn the hatchet. We tie the old new. You know what I mean? Let's get back on a more friendly basis. Those stinging there. It was all a joke. We never really intended to break away and to bring the Americans in and all that stuff. But we might have said it. But it was all a joke. We never really wanted to do it. So let's say we tie the knot and become friends. Sorry. I think that's Taiwan's best plan. Just saying. Thanks a lot, everybody. Last but not least, thank you for all of the people on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee and all of that stuff. The people who help to keep this channel going, it's highly appreciated. And those who can continue to support the channel, I certainly appreciate that. In addition, there are people who use snail mail. There are people who still say, hey, man, I want to write a letter or make a donation or send a card. I just got cards and stuff today, but I'm not in all of that online stuff. Looky here down the bottom. P.O. Box 32, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. Feel free to send snail mail to there. And as I said, it could be a donation, but it could also be just a letter to say hi. Thanks. I enjoy your stuff. Pictures. I get all kinds of stuff. So thanks a lot, everybody. I certainly appreciate you guys taking times out of your busy schedule to spend a little bit of time with me and to listen to me howling at the moon. Have a great day. I'm out. Oh, I also forgot, share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.